Katowice. If Cologne is home to the cathedral of Counter-Strike, then Katowice is a pilgrimage. A city somewhat off the beaten track, it's made its name as a special place for esports, not least, the greatest of them all. That's Counter-Strike, if you're still unsure what you clicked on. With IEM Katowice starting this week, we thought it'd be a lovely use of our time to take our own little pilgrimage down memory lane. Care to join us? Katowice's first foray into Counter-Strike in 2013 was merely dipping a toe into the water, which is 4 teams and $7,000 on the line. You might have heard of the team who won it. The then called ESC Gaming took home $4,000 as they bested MyDGB in the grand final. Katowice in 2013 was more of a League of Legends and StarCraft event. If you have any interest in League at all, you might have heard of the XPeke backdoor. XPeke's Fnatic looked doomed to a loss, but XPeke dodged every ability and timed his rift walks, that's the teleport thingy, to ensure he would be safe as he clubbed SK's Nexus to death. Have you ever wondered why G2 CEO Carlos seems to hate Fnatic so much? He still holds a grudge after Fnatic swiped victory from the jaws, or in this case, smug grin, of defeat. 2014 was when Katowice began to take Counter-Strike seriously, but Poland had never stopped. If you haven't seen our VP video just yet, pause this one, we'll wait, and you'll know all about this, and maybe jiggle Pink One tap that subscribe button as well. NIP looks certain to take the final, having beaten VP nearly every single time they tried before this one, but some vintage snacks magic and the power of the Polish crowd drove VP to a victory. It seemed as if the home crowd had put a rocket up VP's backsides and turned them into the plough we all fondly remember. Katowice was a place of magic, and that was when we knew this event was here to stay. While NIP lost the grand final, they would not be deterred, and 1 year later found themselves in the grand final once again. This time, however, they had to face another of Counter-Strike's titans. The looming colossus of Fnatic cast a shadow on Sweden's noisy neighbours and banished them to Fnatic's shadow for the foreseeable future. olofmeister was the best player in the world, and with the Tech 9 at the height of its lunacy, he showed everyone why Fnatic was sometimes called Fnatic 9. Anyone else feeling all warm and gooey inside seeing olofmeister Tech 9ing people on cobblestone? Try as they might, and Freiburg certainly tried, NIP just couldn't make the final continue forever. VP were once again there to set the Polish crowd alight. Not literally, but they too were felled by the best team in the world, who had signed olofmeister from LGB since last year. 2016 rolled around. Poland wasn't the only country to have a Golden 5 anymore, though maybe Brazil's offering could have its own name. Perhaps Esquadrão de Ouro, and I apologise in advance for my pronunciation. Luminosity trumped Fnatic in the group stage and found themselves in the top 4 automatically after a successful group stage at Kato 2016. A fellow by the name of Fur went a bit mad in the group stage, including a 33 kill game in regulation against the aforementioned Fnatic. What made LG so scary was that when Fur went quiet against Navi, they had other players who could make us believe and maybe blow our minds a little bit.
I'm starting to believe as well, Henry, because he's got to take it play. Stop blowing my mind! This is going to be absolute madness, a round that we will forget, because there goes Zeus.
LG flew out of the blocks in the grand final, posting 12 CT rounds on Overpass, but Fnatic aren't beaten that easily, and they forced overtime.
They don't have a smoke, so this over still.
And as time went on, LG missed their superstar as Fnatic edged them out in OT. That momentum swing hit LG like a freight train, and a sucker punch was enough to knock them out of cash with barely a whimper, as a rampaging Fnatic blitzed them 16-3. LG were down, but not out. Fallen turned to his team and said, "Guys, if you think you are good, let's prove it now." Did they come back? Of course not. 3-0. Fnatic once more proved too much for LG, but 1 year later, now SK Gaming were ejected from a tough Group B. Their brothers Immortals picked up 4 wins to move into playoffs over Fnatic and NIP. The Immortals' dream was ended by FaZe, or more accurately, by FaZe Nico. FaZe, led by former Astralis head honcho Carrigan, were to take on the Danes in the Grand Final. Grand Finals were a marathon and not a sprint though, and Astralis were indomitable on Overpass and then Nuke, with Dupree topping the charts on both. FaZe had to win on Inferno to keep the dream alive, a string of words that will send shivers down the spine of any FaZe fan. FaZe were underdogs in this final. Next year, with a new roster and loads of time to get ready, the now best team in the world would win that final. Right? FaZe smacked Order and smushed North in the groups before Fnatic 2-0'd them in the upper final. This is an Olofmeisterless Fnatic for reference, like Golden and Lekro era Fnatic. It was time for a resurgence, Olofmeister or not. FaZe were given the ignominy of having to play a quarter final where they 2-1'd Cloud9. They then popped Astralis in the semis, getting revenge for last year. I mean, sort of, not really. Fnatic overpowered Liquid and were set up for a rematch with FaZe. FaZe were the favourites pre-tournament, and they surely were destined for the trophy this time around. There was just one problem. You don't get to win trophies from flusha that easily. It might not be 2016 anymore, but flusha sure made it look like it was, tearing FaZe asunder on all 3 maps that Fnatic won. When things looked doomed, flusha once more stood tall to deny FaZe. 2 aces in map 5 of the Grand Final. When things were dark, flusha became the Dark Knight. That performance was one of the most legendary individual performances of all time, but next year we saw one of the most impressive team performances of all time. Astralis rocked up to the major in Katowice in Imperia's fall, and on paper, nobody would have a chance of beating. They crushed Complexity, eviscerated Cloud9 16-0, and dropped a map versus Renegades. Still, a win and 3-0 in the groups. Astralis moved past MIBR in the semis, and somehow conspired to overpower Natus Vincere, despite Simple doing simple things. ENCE were dreaming of a world where everybody could be somebody, but in the end, reality came crashing down on them, and Astralis cemented their legacy as one of, if not the, greatest teams of all time. Simultaneously, a fairy tale was being written in StarCraft. Without Astralis there to ruin it for us all, Su had his own Fnatic-esque resurrection, winning a trophy at Kato 19 with what many considered to be his last chance, having collected 9 silver medals but 0 gold in the last 6 years. It's like StarCraft stole all of the Katowice magic that year. We didn't even get a single Polish team in Katowice. While Simple may have been denied despite his form in 2019, he was undeniable, inevitable and undisputed 1 year later. This year was not what all of us had hoped in many ways. It was still Katowice, but what is Katowice without you guys? Navi started slow and dropped a series to Fnatic in the group stage, having beaten FaZe 2-1 in their opener. In the lower bracket though, they were imperious. They dropped 1 map from then on, with that coming in a rematch with FaZe Clan, which was also the only series Simple wasn't Navi's highest rated player in. Victory over Team Liquid set up a game against last year's winners Astralis. Simple dropped 43 kills in 42 rounds as Navi carved Astralis a lunch meat and moved into the final. There, they met G2, who had overcome their boss's old enemy Fnatic. It was a tough ask for the Franco-Balkan fivesome, but G2 was an org we're used to being underdogs in grand finals. Admittedly, they usually lost them 0-3, so just don't lose 0-3 this time, guys. Didn't start well. Boomich went supernova on map 1 as the IGL went 32-11 in a 16-4. Dust 2 was much tighter, and at times it looked like G2 might worm their way to 16 rounds, but Boomich stood tall to become Simple's partner in crime once more. G2 had to win Mirage to avoid the shame of another 0-3. They failed that task pretty spectacularly. At least you got one over on Fnatic though, eh Carlos? 2021 was the wildest year yet. While we were no stranger to an underdog story, very few people saw this top 4 coming. While Gambit were the lowest ranked team at the event, Team Spirit were the 3rd lowest. Powered by an elite duo of Mir and Dexter, Spirit put G2 to the sword, swept Heroic aside, and 16-1'd Astralis. 16-1'd Astralis. CIS fans were in dreamland, but there were 2 more teams for them to support. Though Navi were sucker punched by Gambit, Virtus Pro showed exactly what they're about. A methodical style laced with the electric aggression of Yekindar, VP were a deadly cocktail of constriction and oppression. So VP finally made it to another final in Katowice, just not in the way the Polish crowd might have wanted. Jame and Yekindar toppled Liquid in the semi-final, Gambit and Spirit duked it out for the other grand final spot. It was always going to be heartbreak for one of the underdogs, and this time it was the breaking of Team Spirit. For many people, due to the online nature of the event, this IEM Katowice has an asterisk on it. But it's an important part of our history, and it would be completely remiss for us to forget a legendary performance from Hobbit. A man who many had cast to memory after a stellar major win on Gambit, Hobbit came up huge in another grand final, proving himself a man for the big occasion. Asterisk or not, this was iconic from Hobbit. And that brings us to today, IEM Katowice 2022.